Co-parenting as a divorced couple is never easy, and the split can cause major changes to not just the lives of the adults, but also the kids. From disagreements to daily logistics, we're going to take a closer look at how some ways to make this new dynamic work. Joining us now, Christina McGhee, a divorce parenting expert and coach. Good to have you with us. This is a topic that affects so many people. So we'll talk about when parents are separated, why it's still so important for them to present a united front for their kids.
Right. Well, I think it is so important to realize that although your relationship has changed, your children's needs have not. So while you may no longer be partners, you're always going to be parents. And how you show up for your kids is really vital. The truth is that it's not divorce necessarily that creates the biggest disruption in children's lives. It's how parents relate to each other on an ongoing basis. And so it's important to fix that united front right at the outside.
And I know it's also important for the parents to kind of take their own feelings out of the equation, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that can be so difficult. But the most important thing, the mistake I often see parents make, is that they just try to wing it. You know, we have this myth, this idea that we're going to show up at our best selves when we're going through the worst time in our lives. And listen, divorce is so emotional and mentally taxing. The best time to think about how you're dealing with those emotions is not when you're in it. So you don't want to do that on the fly. You want to think when you're calm, grounded, make a plan, and ask yourself, in the past, where have I been triggered? Where have I had a difficult time? And what can I do to give myself some space to deal with those emotions in a responsible way?
Let's be clear, there are probably going to be disagreements between the parents. So what's the best advice for them on how to handle that and make sure it's not impacting the kids as much?
Well, I think that the most important thing we want to do is respond, not react when there's a parenting difference. Because when we get into that cycle of reacting, things can go off the rails pretty quickly. And one way to do that is to give yourself some perspective about this relationship. The truth is that there were probably differences in the marriage, and those don't go away just because you're getting a divorce. So you may want to ask yourself, if we were still a couple, how might I react to the situation? How might I handle it? And if it's really something very serious, I always encourage parents to use the grandma rule. So,
what is that?
Well, let's just say that your co-parent fed the kids, chocolate donuts for breakfast, and you have a real issue with it. I encourage parents to ask themselves, if grandma did this, if grandma fed them the chocolate donuts, how would you respond? Chances are we give a lot more slack to grandma than we do to our co-parent.
I love that rule. That's great. I also like chocolate donuts for breakfast, by the way. So just on an everyday basis, how can the divorced parents just better communicate with each other?
Well, I think that you need to make a plan. And a lot of times parents skip this step, but you need to think about how you're going to share information with one another and when you're going to be sharing it. How are you going to handle non-critical things versus critical things? I think the other thing that's super important is that it's really share information with your co-parent in the way that works for them, not you.
And I feel like that's probably a tension point sometimes for a lot of parents, right?
It is.
Some really useful advice there. Christina McGhee, we appreciate having you on. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
All right. You are watching NBC News Daily.